Okay. Got Herb.
Well, there's Herb. Okay, you're broadcasting, so whenever you're ready to start, you go right ahead.
All right. I'll wait for a few more participants and we'll go from there. Thanks, Ron.
And I will hopefully be right back.
Okay.
For a minute, I thought I was Don Gibson. Not that
And
good
maybe he
looking.
thought he was Herb.
Yeah, I should be so lucky.
How you doing, Linda?
Doing okay. What about you?
Good. Yes. Don, how about yourself?
Pretty good, thank you. And how's Herb doing?
I'm doing A-okay. Got to go water the plants this morning, then I got to go water Herb in the Y pool. So then I went and watered my car.
You've been busy.
I
Yeah.
know it. A lot of water. You know, Massey Nursery, boy, they have lots of trees, don't they?
They really do. It's quite an impressive list.
Do they have a whole bunch of different nurseries? I think
I think they do source from different places. Okay, I see Lee.
this is one of my goals. I'm trying to learn when I look at a tree what it is, but boy, there's so many trees. The leaves are so similar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I'm going to live long enough to get them down.
Yeah,
So-
I have an older Taylor guide on trees, and it explains the process, but there are just so many variations. It's hard to be sure sometimes.
Remember in 10th grade biology, we had to put together a notebook of all the, had to go out and collect the leaves and tape them on a notebook.
I did one of those. It was kind of fun. I liked it.
Yeah, went over to Cherokee Park where they had them labeled, the trees labeled.
Good idea.
Yeah, that made it easy. Good for you. No, Connie has a conflict, and we all got an email from Sylvia that she thought she'd be through with court, but the case has not even been called yet, so she's unsure that she'll be able to participate. But as long as we have Lee, Herb and I, we have a quorum, so we can move forward on some of our discussions. So at this point, I guess it is a question of hopefully the mayor will be joining us,
Right.
and then we can officially get started.
Sounds good. I bet you're glad to have your internet working again.
Oh, it was a nightmare. And for days, for a while, actually, it's been kind of going in and out, and you never knew when it was going to be working. And it would
Oh,
usually shut down in the middle of, something I was doing or my son was working on, that it just was not good. And
That's always
so
the way, isn't it?
it is. It's one of Murphy's laws for sure.
Absolutely.
So they were here, they redid a bunch of wires, they had some new connectors, they had new splitters, and so it's probably as good as things can be here, and then we're still dependent on whatever Spectrum mothership does, and we go from there.
Yeah, that's for sure. I have called Spectrum many times.
I can imagine.
We did
They're
until we finally said AT&T, now you're our server.
How is that working out? That could be of interest.
Yeah, it's much better.
Okay.
We don't have
dependable.
AT&T where I live, so we're stuck with Spectrum.
Okay.
But at least you have an option. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I keep seeing these ads that, if you have, you can get service through Verizon. And I don't know anybody that has that, or, what the quality of the product is.
Yeah, I don't know anybody either. I've heard that.
I
Lee,
just
are
opened
you
my
on?
Spectrum bill today. It was $20 higher than it was last month.
Doesn't surprise me.
I noticed the same thing
Give
yesterday.
me 1 second.
Okay, Lee, we can't see you, but I guess we can hear you.
Yeah, for some reason, my camera's not connecting.
Okay, as long as you're there.
Yep,
Uh,
absolutely. I can see all you guys.
Okay. John, are you there?
I am. Can you hear
Okay,
me?
is the mayor going to join us today?
That I'm not sure of. He does know of the meeting,
Okay,
but he is not in the office.
okay, well, it's just like 1 minute after
I'll text
2.
him real quick.
Okay, because otherwise we'll get started.
What, uh, Andrea, the size trees we have on the canopy program,
Yes, sir.
and I know they're 2 inch, but what size container, do they come in containers or
No,
those are,
they're balled and burlap trees,
okay,
heavy root balls.
yeah. We're on the 10th day of no rain.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we're gonna get some the end of the week, but you never know.
Yeah, it sounded pretty sure like Friday we were going to see some rain, so we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah, it's gotten really dry again.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like it's all or nothing.
Yeah, and how quickly it can change.
I know.
I did some clearing and uncovered my,
He is
Now,
not
water-
going to attend.
What,
okay.
please?
The mayor's not going to be
Okay,
attending.
John, I hear you
thank you.
now. Thank you. Okay, well then, let's call the meeting to order and we can proceed. First thing would be the, approval of the minutes from July. You should all have gotten a copy. I don't know if there's any questions, changes, corrections.
No, I approved as submitted.
Okay, I guess,
Seconded. I second
okay.
that.
So all in favor? We're good. The mayor, no update there. John, is there anything you would like to share from the city for us?
Only thing I'm aware of is, I think, and you may be talking about today, is that Mike Thomas is awaiting some information from you all on maybe a dozen different trees.
Yes, we will be discussing that. So, okay,
That's really all I have.
okay, good deal.
Since the mayor isn't here, can we leave a question on what the situation is with Chase Bank?
Well, that's on the agenda too, and I have an update based on, new findings, and the mayor did make a connection, and I can tell you what's going on.
I see it now. I guess you got to read the whole agenda, don't you?
That's cheating.
Okay.
Okay, Andrea, what would you like to discuss? I don't know if we want to go ahead and get into our tree list at this point.
Um, you mean the fall, like ordering lists? List of
Yes.
things for Ordering, yeah, we can. I just wanted to mention that I sent you all, and you've probably seen some different emails coming through in the last week or so, or last couple of days too, of some hazard trees. I don't know if we want to go through those today until everything's worked out with code enforcement, or I know you and Lee met with the mayor and some others regarding that. Do you want me to talk about those, or would you rather hold that to the next meeting?
I think you put them in emails, and what I'm planning to do is add those to our master list that will go to Mike.
Okay,
And I guess we can go ahead and get into that. Lee and I met with Mike and the mayor and John, and just talking about that, I think they're comfortable that as the ordinance gets closer to approval, that they're ready to start with enforcement again. And, we had a form, we have some new letters, and Mike's anxious to get started. So what I found is before this meeting is, we had been submitting information that there had been no action taken on. And oh my goodness, David, hello,
Hello, can you
welcome.
hear me?
We can.
Oh, good.
Good. Okay.
Good to be here.
Nice to meet you. So what we talked about there was the fact that these things hadn't been enforced, or in the case of, we had the owners in the landings that actually had reached out to us, and we were out there with,
Mhm.
with the mayor and with Rick Wilson trying to explain
Right.
what was needed, and they were ready to take trees out. Didn't happen. Those trees are still there, and there continue to be more of those pear trees that are of great concern.
Right.
And so what I have been doing, I've been going back through all of the emails, all of the forms from not only this year, but 2023's to create a new master list. And so what I thought I would do once I have all the addresses is that I would put them into neighborhood groupings where I could, and then create a spreadsheet that we could use to do a checklist of notifications sent and when the follow-up date should be, and then what next steps we would take. Now, one of the concerns, Mike has no problem with this, but I know he's had some conversations with people with all of the storm cleanup, and we can send these letters, but getting people to do the work is, I think, going to be one challenge, because some of these companies are very busy right now. And the other big concern that he said several people expressed to him was the cost of getting the work done. He had talked to one resident that, I'm not sure how many trees were involved, but it was, $65,000. And, who's got that sitting in their grocery money? So getting some of these things remediated could be a challenge. And of course, there is a provision that the city can go on and do the work. And in the case of the developer, they wanted more permits, and so they had to cough up the money. In the case of a resident, basically all that could be done easily is, well, it could be added to a tax bill, and, a lien could be put on the property, but that's not really very productive, and the tax bill comes due, and then what happens? It could be very challenging. So I don't know that there's an easy answer there, but that may be one of the things that we face as we start moving forward with enforcement again. So Lee,
Yeah,
would you like to add anything further to that from that particular meeting?
No, I think you covered it quite well.
Okay, so at least we know that we're going to get the support once we identify these problems and how it plays out short term, long term, because certainly some of it will be easier than others to remediate. And when we have a case, it's more trimming versus, multiple removals.
Right.
So that, I think, what was very positive. And so once I have the rest of my list put together, I've got a couple pages of notes already. I will send it out to everybody in Forestation for a review, and then it will go to Mike and the city, and they can decide how they want to move forward. And, and it may be, once we get this list that we, as part of Forestation, may want to, take a neighborhood and just go out and see what work has or hasn't been done. Because we don't want Mike to have to do work that's not needed.
that's a good idea to go out. Yeah.
And so
Well, yeah,
somebody,
I can check, I can check
you
that
live
too.
in Fox Harbor, you could be Fox Harbor, Connie lives in Sutherland, she could do the trees in Sutherland and so on. So that may be an approach that would work for everybody and not be too much of a burden before we turn things over to the city to move forward.
So you're gonna add the ones that I've sent recently to your list? Is that
Yes,
what
I
you?
printed off those emails and they're in my remediation folder.
Oh,
Do we
okay.
need, Linda, do we need to vote on those or not?
Well, until we have the list, then I think we can review what's on the list and then vote that this is what we need the city to support enforcement on.
I'm
Okay,
talking about the most recent ones, because, oh, you're just adding them to the list. Okay.
she's just gonna add them, I guess, and you guys can
Vote on the
vote on them at
body of
another
things as
time.
a whole, I think.
Okay.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
And you mentioned, and we've talked about it multiple times, the issues with the trees and the landings, the great number of Bradford pears that are planted as street trees there. And they are of a big concern. They are, we're seeing more and more that are many of them are in decline. Probably the largest percentage of them are, and they're just kind of an accident waiting to happen. So if we can continue to try to figure out if there's somebody, I think you said the Fox Harbor Homeowners Association isn't very active, or we don't know.
I think Lee tried to
Doesn't it?
contact the Landings HOA and never got any responses. I think he called and emailed, isn't that right, Lee?
Yes, that was probably 2 years ago. And I definitely left voicemail, but was never responded to.
What I'll do is I'll check with the city, because I believe they have recently updated all of the HOA contacts, and I can
That's good.
see if there's somebody new at the Landings that we can reach out to. So I think, if nothing else, while they can see the trees are not doing well, I'm not sure they understand the scope of how many of them are truly becoming dangerous.
Right. And hopefully, maybe if we get the name of an individual, if they, I think as you've mentioned before, they could be invited to a forestation board meeting just to, give them some information on those trees, a lot of those trees.
Yeah,
That's the problem with, that's the problem with planning, a developer planting all of one species of tree as a street tree, and so they all end up declining about the same age and the same time frame. And you don't want to plant all the same. If we were planting street trees, you don't want to have a monostand. You want to have a mixture of trees so that doesn't become such an issue. But anyway, that would be a good idea if you can work it out. I mean, you can find somebody.
Who would be responsible for the remediation of these trees in the landings? Would it be the individual homeowner or the HOA or the city?
My take would be, it would be the homeowner unless it's in, a common area within the subdivision.
So they would have what, one or two trees per individual?
Right, unless they have it like a corner lot or something, and then there might be
Yeah, we
4 or
did see
5.
one corner lot that has multiples.
Right. Yeah,
That's
there's
probably
one.
the worst case. In some cases, it's only one tree.
Also note that those trees don't tend to be massive. So we're not talking $10,000 to take out a single Bradford pear, probably much, much less.
Mhm.
Right, that's true, Lee, that's a good point.
So the burden for the homeowner would be taking out the tree and then replacing it with a 2-inch tree or something like that?
That would be the recommendation, yes,
They wouldn't have to
but they don't
replace
have
it.
to.
Oh, they don't have to replace the tree.
No, we just encourage them to do so, and that, they can come to Arborfest and get a free tree, if nothing else.
Or come through the canopy program,
Or the canopy
that would
program
be
for
the
something more
ideal thing if
substantial.
they would.
But the real cost to them would be about what, a couple thousand a tree?
To take them out, you mean?
Right.
Or to,
To
no,
take
I
the
don't
tree
think
out.
they'd be in that, tree removal prices certainly have gone up, but I don't know. It used to be you could remove one for $400 or $500, but I'd probably add to that now. It might be 700.
700 to 1,000 maybe,
As
depending
you know,
on the tree.
things have gone up, and then
Mhm.
a replacement tree, depending on how they get it. If they get it through the canopy program, I mean, that I think it's typically been $150. I think, right? Is that, or 160? Was it?
175.
Okay, well, it's close, 175, sorry. But that's still a really good deal. That's probably half price of what they would pay a regular landscape company to install a new tree.
So maybe the forestation board could work with the HOA and maybe find a company that could do it. It sounds like there's a lot of them to be taken out and get a good price.
Right, I think we kind of had, maybe a while ago now, we had mentioned something like that, or even if I was wondering if I don't know if the trees that Ron gets removed are always removed by Greenscapes, do you know, or does he have a separate contractor that the city uses for,
I would say
When he-
95% of them are, if not more.
with Greenscapes?
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Very expensive.
it might be, right. But there's, if we could get the HOA, somebody in charge of the HOA, I'm sure there's some things we could do to, lower costs. Especially if tree work's done in the winter months,
Right.
when they're a little
Yeah.
slower.
Maybe not only the winter months, but the idea of, a lot of work in the same area that,
Yeah,
becomes,
it's in addition to that,
more
a
efficient for
quantity,
them.
kind of a quantity discount.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you guys had Smithfield Green, you had us take out several trees. And that's what we did. We waited till January and we got a pretty decent price.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you want to go through the tree selections for the 3-gallon trees, Linda, or you want to do that in a little while, or what?
I don't know, Herb, Lee, have you had a chance to look at those and think about what we might want to add? Or use this year?
For the 3-gallon or the canopy now you talk about?
Let's do 3-gallon first for, Arborfest.
How many trees, what's your budget again for Arborfest?
Well, we have a couple of different options here. The city budget was increased considerably, and this might impact not only Arborfest and what we're talking about doing with Chase, but the canopy program as well. The last year we did 5 different trees, and I think we brought in about 50. The current budget
That's right.
is allows for roughly 75 trees, just trying to make more things available because of all the storm damage and loss. So we could look at, we did 5 different things last year. It was a good mix, and whether we want to do more or just offer more of the ones that we select could be one option. But the other side of that coin is they increased the budget significantly on the overall tree planting. Last year, it was $8,400 for tree planting on line 8311. This year, it is $20,000. So a
It's how
lot,
much, Linda? Say that again.
20,000.
20,000.
And we still have money in there for Arborfest at 1650. So we could look at doing several different combinations of things. One would be, last time we only did in the spring 10 canopy trees. And we've committed that we will go ahead and do canopy trees both in the fall and the spring to kind of help people reestablish things in their yard. Rather than 10 each time, maybe we can do 20 each time, because I think the money is there, because I think we're going to have a hard time otherwise. It was put in to plant, okay, the $20,000, the breakdown that council did was 1,500 for the canopy trees. That would go up some just to do one time. 2,900 for watering, and then 15,600 to plant 55 trees. I don't know that there's enough public space to plant 55 trees, But if we can do more things with the canopy and offer some more things at Arborfest, I think that could be a way to make good use of this money and help the community.
Well, the,
Yeah,
ca-
that would be
the
great.
canopy trees have a much greater success of making it than the Arborfest trees. So I think your concept of more canopy trees, we just have to find out if the residents have the interest to be in the program. But I think in concept, I think it's a good concept to have more available.
Yeah, I think that would be a good idea
So
too.
maybe we could offer 20 in the fall and another 20 in the spring, just
Yep.
to help with more significant choices.
Yep.
Okay. Andrea had sent out a nice list of some things. And we offered, let's see, I think 6 different types last in the spring. So I think we would want to do something similar. And, you know, there's a nice beech tree, there's a sugar maple, there's a swamp white oak. Do we want to
You know-
get into offering a couple of evergreens? Because there were a lot of evergreens lost. So that could be an option as well.
I don't think we've ever had the beach on the list.
Yeah, I like the idea of adding that one. I think the first 3
Yes.
are good choices.
Somebody has a location for a big tree, that would be
And
a
a lot of the
a
trees we
good one.
lost were big trees, so I think
Yeah,
something.
they're harder to get. The beech are not offered are not as available as some of the other trees. So if you are interested in them, that would be a good one to, to offer this time.
I think
Well,
so
why
too.
don't we consider either 5 or 6 trees here for the Arbor Fest? Are we wanting to concentrate first on the Arbor Fest and then the canopy later? Or,
Well, I guess we need to make a commitment to the Arborfest trees, just so, we can make the arrangements needed for those. And
Yes, that would be good to do those first. I mean, get your list together for
Okay.
those first. Just
what,
time.
what we typically do is a lot of people like the smaller flowering trees
Right.
on Arbor. So the red buds and the dogwoods.
Now, last year in the fall, we had a pawpaw, we had an eastern redbud, we had a sweet bay magnolia, we had a Coosa dogwood, and then a Sun Valley red maple. I think the magnolias, particularly if you can get the multi-stem ones, are always popular. The Coosa dogwoods are always popular. I think it's nice to have a maple of some sort available.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure, I think, what did we have? We had Sun Valley Red. What do you think about the various maples, Andrea?
I would probably go, October Glory is a tried and true one that's been around for a long time, but it's still a very good cultivar. It's more of a, bigger red maple. The Frank's Red is red sunset maple, which also has been around quite a while. So either of those would be fine.
Okay,
Armstrong,
How about going with October Glory?
well, that'd be fine.
okay, there's one tree.
The pawpaws is the one that we had left over, and we actually we did plant them in the
I think
park,
they
Little
went
Honey
into the
Creek Park,
parks.
and they didn't survive.
They have an interesting tree on here. Maybe you saw it's called a Katsura tree. It's Sursa defilum japonicum. It's a lot of time. They also have a weeping one, not on this list this time, but that's a tree you don't see very often. It gets to be a good sized tree and has wonderful fall color and things. It's a little bit different.
Let's put it on the list.
And then
I like it.
Well,
Earlier we were talking about we want diversity in case there is an illness, so
right,
a tree sickness. So let's go with the Katsura.
Mm-hmm.
they have, if you want flowering trees, they have a Carolina silver bell on that list. I think a few years ago you offered
I
that
say at
tree.
one point we had that, and I think that's a very nice tree.
It's a little
Yeah,
bit different. It's native.
That could substitute for the pawpaw my recollection is the same as Herb's. We had difficulty moving the pawpaws.
We did.
Maybe that's
people didn't
because
know
a
what
lot
they
of
were.
people, yeah, don't know what they are probably.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Well, they didn't look very attractive
No,
either.
they weren't. Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to visualize something.
Yeah. I mean, the other trees definitely looked, more like a tree. Well, is somebody writing down how many we got so far?
Okay, we've got the October Glory Maple, we've got Katsura, we've got the Carolina Silver Bell. I think we need to keep the Coosa Dogwood on there because people are always looking for those. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
We had
And
the
we talked
red-
about magnolias, and the ones I've got in the past, they've done real well.
Now, we tried to get Bracken's Brown, I think, last year, and it ended up not being available. So I
That-
think we ended up with a multi-stem sweet bay. So I think either of those could be an option based on availability.
Yes, I would think so too.
Okay.
Want to put Bracken's Brown and we'll try for that first and see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and if they have to sub it, that they go with the 3-stem sweet bay.
Yes, yes. The Brackens are the 3-stem sweet bay. Okay.
Okay.
So you've got October Glory, Carolina Silver Bell, Coosa, Dogwood, and the Magnolia choice. And what was the other one you told me about? Be sure I write it down.
You got Katsura,
We got the Katsura, you got the
Katsura,
Carolina
yeah.
Silver Bell.
Right.
October Glory Red Maple.
Yeah. So that's five.
5. And that's what we
got-
did last year. We did 5 last year.
Okay.
So you'll have really 2 flowering trees and 3. Well, let's say you'll have 3 flowering trees, I guess, and then the 2 other trees, the maple and the Katsura.
Right, and so if we do just the 5, that basically would give us 15 of each tree.
Make a note or be sure you saw what it says at the end.
The
of this
delivery?
List that the delivery has gone up. That's just because it's such a small
$300.
quantity of trees, but I know for a long time, Sue Massey tried to keep it at the same amount, but it
Mhm.
had everything, like everything else, it's gone up. So just so
Sure.
you think 15 of each, Linda?
Well, that kind of gets us in the ballpark of what the budget is, but because of the additional money for tree planting, we could offer more of those 5 varieties. What do you all think about that?
Well, right now you're saying 75, right? 5 times.
Mhm.
I think
I wouldn't be
75.
surprised
I think 75 is.
How many did you have left last year?
2 or 3.
Just
Yeah,
2 or 3?
mostly the pawpaws.
Yeah.
they were the
But
pawpaw.
we only had 50 last year, so I
Right.
think 75 is really the right number.
Yeah, that's an increase, and we did. I know people want trees, but how much they really want trees, we can see.
Also, last year, we were short of tree guards.
Right, the tree
There were-
Oh,
guards.
yeah.
Sufficient
Yeah,
number
we need the
and-
tree guards. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah. These little trees are,
they need
they're
they
so-
need all the help they can
it's-
get.
yeah.
Okay, so I've made a note on that, and that'll be something to pass on to Ron so he knows that we're going to have 75 little trees that need guards.
But the Bracken's Brown Beauty Magnolia or the 3-stem Sweet Bay probably will not need tree guards. I mean, they're
Okay.
not going to have much of a trunk showing probably. I mean, they should, I would assume, be branched, well, I mean, to the ground or almost to the ground.
Okay,
So you need 3, the Katsura, the red maple, and the Coosa Dogwood. You'll need
okay,
trunk guards for those.
okay. That gives us a number to give Ron. Sounds good.
Okay,
So,
well, I will check on those. I'll tell Sue Massey what your choices are, and she'll check with the grower and then get us a confirmation or let us know if we have to sub anything. And
okay,
I'll
sounds good.
do that right away, so she'll have that.
Okay, do we want to talk about the canopy trees while we're kind of looking at tree choices? Because I know we've said we want the beech tree with it. We want to, let's go with the sugar maple and a white oak. Maybe, do we want to add an evergreen? Do we want a spruce? Do we want an arborvitae? Just because a lot of evergreens were lost.
Yeah, a lot of evergreens were lost, and those are two good choices because they're adapted to different soil types. They're pretty easy to grow, you know, with minimal effort. So, and the
Well, maybe.
Green giant arborvitaes get to be the size of a tree. I mean, they are technically a tree. So they will get quite large and they're fast growing. Touted as being deer resistant, which is a plus.
Oh, indeed.
Now, I don't know, but I'm not going to guarantee it in Prospect. A lot
Can't
of
win 'em
the
all.
nursery where they're coming from has a
let-
lot of acreage in Trimble County, and the deer leave them alone. So they're touted as being deer
I'd say
resistant.
that's a good endorsement.
So let me ask you, so this is a different list than the 3-gallon list, right?
Yes, sir.
It was in an email, yeah.
I sent it out on the 30th, Lee. I mean, sorry, Herb, excuse me.
Well, I saw one real early and it was about 5 trees and they mainly were all big oaks and maples and all that. Was there a later one than that?
No,
I
only
think I
sent
just
out
have the one. What's
And-
on the list? I'll read it to you, Herb. It's an American beech, a fall fiesta sugar maple, a swamp white oak, a willow oak, a Shermard oak, 15-gallon bald citrus, green giant arborvitae, a Norway spruce, or forest pansy redbud.
And you had mentioned a Zelkova too.
You
that's
did.
on that particular list, but that could be another option.
Let's put that on the list.
Okay.
Do you want to do an evergreen? I would
Yes.
think you
Yeah.
would. Which one would you like to offer? The spruce or the green giant arborvitae? I was thinking the arborvitae, you know, either they can be used singly or they can be used as screening for people that maybe lost their evergreen screens in places.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why we want to offer one. So if we do the beech, the sugar maple, and a swamp white oak, the Zelkova, and then the arborvitae, that's a pretty nice mix.
Right.
What do you guys think?
I think that's good, but I was going to say when we publish the newsletter article regarding these canopies, we ought to make clear that we're offering more of them. Last year,
For sure.
one of the regular buyers, that is for the Overlook, asked specifically if they could have more than one tree. And the answer was yes, and they got 2 at least. So I just want to make sure that the citizens know there's more than a few trees available in terms of numbers of trees.
Which kind of leads into, I think we've got some good choices here. One of the other items on the, before I get to Chase, is Lee and I met with the country club. And they were curious in terms of what the city was doing and were there anything we could do to help them, because they feel they may have lost as many as 150 trees at the country club. And they took advantage and were given a canopy tree in the spring. They just got the tree, and they didn't have to pay for the planting because they have the staff that, is able to do that. And so I told them that you know, Lee and I told them that we would be doing canopy tree again, and they certainly, we could work with them, and, you know, there could be other ways, because they have several key areas that they want to focus on where so much was lost, and what else could they do? I think they're interested whether they could buy some trees wholesale through any of these suppliers, Andrea, and that would be something that, you know, you could discuss with your contacts.
Well,
whether
it
they're
depends on the quantity that they're interested in
Well,
buying.
I'm not sure they know at this point. They have a
Right.
committee that is evaluating, they're calling the beautification committee, and they're addressing, I think, 4 key areas within the golf course. And certainly there are lots of members here in Prospect that are members of that club. And I'm sure would do what they needed to support it, even to the point of, you know, they could get a tree and donate it to the
Right.
club if they chose to.
I would think
Have
it
they made a formal request to the city? Or is this just being pretty casual, I think?
I think it's pretty casual. I mean, Doug was there, John, you were there, and it was Lee and I, and they just wanted to know, obviously this is a big deal for them that they're still doing cleanup work, and, that they want to move forward with replacements because they know what they've lost. And this is, you know, investing in the future to keep the club looking nice, because there's plenty of other trees that are around that will age out. So they want to do what they can to, you know, keep the club looking good and investing in the future.
right. Well, I would think they'd already be buying trees wholesale, directly from a grower, but, if they're not,
Well,
it would depend on the grower and what quantity they order. But I would think if they're ordering somewhere between 10 and 20 trees, that most growers would, you know, go along with that.
Okay.
I can't speak
don't
for
think
them.
that until they
let's,
get their plan.
I think we need the city to start to give us a little help on this. To
On what?
see, I mean, we went along and our flexibility allowed 1 tree, you know, last year. I would imagine they're looking for a big help.
Right.
Multiple trees, otherwise.
I would say they probably, yes, once they
Absolutely.
have their
So I
plans
mean,
in place.
I realize they're very important to prospecting and everything, but I think the city might need to. It seems like the city is sort of interested in some way of helping the tree situation at the country club, but I think maybe we need to maybe talk to the mayor and then find out if they really if we're going to be involved in this.
I think that's a valid concern, and I did bring up with the people from the country club that there could be other programs available to them directly, because I know MSD has some planting programs. Trees Inc. has some planting programs available to people in the community. And, you know, we had reached out to some of them early in the spring after the storm. And at that point, they had exhausted their supplies, but felt there would be more things available in the fall. So I said there could be some other things like that. Initially, I also contacted the Arbor Day Foundation to see if they had anything, and they also have a disaster program. So these are all resources that once they have a better sense of what they want and where, they can, you know, reach out to some of these people on their own.
That's right.
Yeah, yes, and it's a discussion we had with the country club people. It was mentioned that individual residents can go to Arborfest and get a tree, and then they can elect to give it to the country club. That way we avoid the issue we've always run into, that you can't spend city money on private property per se,
Mhm.
unless the program is available to all.
That's
You
right.
know, that is interesting. If the country club, somebody put that bug in their ear, then it might make a difference of how many trees we get actually in the Harbor Fest. But
Yeah,
we
but
need
you
to.
wouldn't want too many members that are residents to take advantage of that, because we really want this going not only to the country club if it helps them, but to the residents that lost so many trees.
Well, well, trees help the community, whether they're on my property or the country club property. And the country club lost more than anybody by far. So
Well,
anyway,
that's true. That's
Yeah.
another way to look at it, for
Yeah.
sure.
So.
Okay, well, I think this will be an ongoing discussion with the country club, but obviously they're interested in anything we can do to help. And I think Doug wants to support them any way that seems reasonable for us and the city. So we will continue to address that agenda. Now,
and not to beat a dead horse, but is it the forestation responsibility to talk to them, or is it the city responsibility to talk to them? All right, maybe responsibility in the right word, the appropriate party to talk to them.
I think the bottom line is the city, but I think the city wants forestation input. Would you agree with
Okay.
that, Lee?
Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, one of the topics we've all been anxious to hear about is what's going on with Chase. And Doug was very persistent in tracking down assorted first people within the Chase organization, and finally, I guess, got to the right person and to start with. And there were some emails the end of last week with a gentleman that I was involved with. I've been introduced to electronically, named Sean Bunt. He's in Columbus. And so I think they understand that we have some expectations to make things right after the way, things were not carried out as we expected. And so I said, well, we were going to have our meeting and we'd come up with what we thought would be fair to, move forward with this. And he said, once we had a proposal, that there'll probably be a WebEx call with Doug and this Sean to say, here's what Prospect would like to do. And then he will then bring in somebody that's part of their real estate team for hopefully the agreement and execution. And I think as, we talked last time that, what we would probably ask for is a drop in the bucket to them, and they're moving into a new location and they want to be a good neighbor. And I think they would, not be surprised with that we would ask them to do something to take care of the trees they weren't supposed to remove. So at the last meeting, Herb had what I thought was a very good idea, and see how everybody feels about it now that they've had some time to think. That would be that they replace 2 trees near the bank, and Andrea could make recommendations on what they should do, and that would be at least a 2-inch tree, not an inch and a half.
Right.
And then we would say, in order to help the community, let's have them fund Arborfest. I think that would be reasonable.
I
I
still
think
think
it is. And
Just the value.
I'd like to point out that
What's
just for
the,
cutting the 2 trees, they could be fined $1,500. So that's very close to the Arbor Fest 1650.
Correct.
Yeah, but it doesn't come out as a fine.
No, and the
It
other
it comes out
issue,
that they're being big-hearted to the community. It just, I mean, it's the same deal, but it just comes out better.
Yes.
what's the value of the 2 trees that they took down?
that's a whole nother discussion that would add to their accountability based on the size.
To me, it would seem to me that they would reimburse the city something amounting to the value of the 2 trees they took down.
So we have really
That
3
would
elements
have
here.
been under
It's
the
hard to
ordinance.
come up with a value unless the trees were evaluated by somebody who does that kind of thing. And since they're not around, since they were taken down, it would be difficult to.
Well, there's a tree, there's a tree, Andrea, there's a tree still standing in the middle that's
Right.
comparable to the 2 trees that they took down. Because somebody did an evaluation of that tree and arrived at a comparable value.
Well, I can refer you to somebody that can give you a value, that's very reputable. But I actually don't do that type of thing, but there's consulting arborists that do just that. And if you would want that information, I mean, he would charge something he's in Lexington, but he's extremely well qualified. So you can, if you're interested, I can, give you his name. I mean, other than that, you would just come up with a replacement of, 2-inch tree, basically just some smaller trees.
Or
we
do we
obviously
ask
can't
for a
replace the
larger tree?
7-inch trees. I think it seems to me it's ridiculous to accept a 2-inch tree after somebody cuts down 2 6 or 7-inch diameter trees. Those were huge trees.
Right.
So
Those large trees, even if we could get them or they could plant them, are not as good an option as you think, because they're difficult to have transplant well.
I'm trying to understand what is the value of the 2 trees taken down.
Well, you can have that determined if you want to have a consulting arborist look at it.
Well, does
I mean, we don't normally.
does the board
we're
think that's
normally-
realistic to do?
Well,
I'm sorry.
to listen to the council person, I think Forestation needs to, we have money to do things, so to contact this tree appraiser and see what the cost would be.
I can contact him for you. His name is Dr. Bill Fountain. He was head of the UK horticulture and arboriculture department until he retired. He's internationally known. He's worked with the International Society of Arboriculture. He's published many publications. He teaches about these things and gives seminars. So he came
Andrea?
up to, yes, sir.
Can he value trees that no longer exist?
Well, he's not going to be able to value a tree that no longer exists. He could value the tree that was in place, but that's still left, but it's still not the exact same, situation, because the trees part of how they evaluate it is the species, the type of condition that they're in, which they evaluate, does it have any decay, or does it have a split trunk, or whatever. And there's a whole list of factors that they go through to evaluate a large tree. Now, we probably could get, I don't know, we could probably go to somebody like Mike Ray with Carl Ray Nursery. You may have heard of that. And he's a gentleman that's been in the nursery industry for a long, long time. And he specializes in moving bigger trees. And I mean, you could get a ballpark idea of what a 6-inch red maple would cost. I don't know if that would be acceptable to figuring out a cost in this case or not, but that could be one option. And I could also ask him,
that
if he
might
could give me
be
a
an easy
ballpark
place to
number.
start.
I think so too. I mean, what you're trying to do is price the loss of those 2 trees. And you do have one in the middle that was planted, and it had the same environment for 25, 30 years as the trees that were cut down. So it's reasonable to assume the 2 flanking trees would be comparable to the tree that's still standing, and therefore able to arrive at a price to cost out or loss.
I think they would be similar. And the other option that I was kind of thinking about is that rather than this 2-inch tree business, it could be a canopy size tree, even if it's not a 6-inch, but still a more mature tree to go into those 2 lost locations.
Linda, what I'm suggesting to you is, rather than come up with what you think you want, let's price out what the loss is first. And then
Okay.
we get an agreement with Chase to reimburse us for the loss, given a reasonable effort in determining what our loss is. So we can do Ray, or we can do the.
Which direction would you like to go in first, Don?
Excuse me?
Which direction would you like the board to go in first? What is your
But get a
suggestion?
price from Carl Ray.
Start with that.
Okay. I mean, it would be a ballpark number, kind of an average cost that
Mhm.
he would say would cost to replace that size. Say a 6-inch, or we could say an 8-inch. I'm not really, they were bigger than that probably.
Well,
We
look at the
can't
tree.
transplant, we don't normally,
The
unless you're
trees are
Disney.
still existing. I mean, that's what we lost. We lost 2 of the trees and
understand.
one is still existing.
Right, I got it.
If you want me to go to the drawing that showed where they were preserving the trees, I will. They might give this, the species anyway. I'll be right back.
I think they were all maples, Lee. I mean, Herb, why do I keep calling you Lee? I'm sorry. I think they were all red maples, as I recall.
Well, they were beautiful trees.
That's true.
Yeah, it was red maples, and you were recommending Sun Valley or Red Point, to be more specific.
Well, that was big, yeah, right. Well, let me see if I can get a hold, see if I can get a hold of Mike Ray, and I'll see what I can find out, and I can get back with you all.
Thank
Sounds
you.
good. Be a good start.
Yeah.
Okay, so that, at least we are moving forward. We have somebody that I think we will get a response from at Chase. So once we know, have the information to move forward, we can do that. So the other thing going down the list is, I know many of you know Mike Powers. Lee, you probably can say more about Mike. He was one of the original Forestation Board members along with Lee. And he passed last week, and Lee had suggested that because of all the things he's done, not only for forestation, but for the community, that we might want to think about a memorial tree for him. So Lee, I'll let you, expound on that a little bit more and talk about a tree and where to put the tree and what your opinion is.
Yeah, well, I definitely would support having a memorial tree for Mike. Mike was on the original board. He was a good contributor. That one of the specific things which may be relevant, that he was a person who suggested planting a line of flowering trees in Little Hunting Creek Park. The dogwoods and redbuds, some of which have been gone, have gone since then. And he stayed on the board till he was appointed to a state board, and under the law, he couldn't remain on 2 boards at the same time. So he had to leave the Forestation Board, but he was always a good supporter. And I just spoke recently in April when I got an award for forestation work.
Mhm.
So if we could find the right location in Little Hunting Creek Park and choose a species that would perhaps long endure, would be flowering, I think that would be very appropriate.
Okay, that's something to look into with our fall planting plans.
Think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm.
And we could get a little plaque. I would ask his surviving spouse, Wanda Powers, what she would like on the plaque.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good. Okay, I don't have anything else on my agenda. Is there another topic anybody needs to get into today?
I
No.
don't have anything.
Okay, well, I think we've made some nice progress today, and I thank everybody. So I guess we should have a motion to adjourn.
And we're going back to September the 12th is a Thursday. So we're going back to Thursday.
Thursday, and I'm going to talk to Ron that hopefully we can try out our hybrid meeting, that those of us that can would attend from City Hall. And I know Andrea and Sylvia need to stay electronic so that option would be available to anybody else.
Okay, make a motion to adjourn.
Seconded.
Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care.
You too.